I can't tell you the place I get into when I'm overeating. So I starve myself in the day because of the shame of the night before and what I've done, right? And I wake up and I promise you, it's the first thing I think about when I wake up is like, you're a fat mess who can't control yourself when you eat, right? And I feel shit about it all day. So then I starve myself all day. I'm looking in the mirror. I'm disgusted with what I see. And it's nothing to do with what I see. Let me be clear about that, yeah? It's about how I feel. So what I see is bad. And then I binge in the evening. And I'm honestly, the place that I get to internally in my mind is not too dissimilar to the place I found myself in with the drinking and worse.
This video from Josh Connolly is honestly such a good representation of the binge-restrict cycle and all of the emotions and everything that you go through when you are in the thick of it. And I really loved his point at the very end about what he said about how it's not a dissimilar state of mind to be in as when he was in the throes of drinking, and I assume alcoholism, because it's not about the drug or the substance or whatever it is that you're taking in, it's what you are trying to escape from. It's what you're using those things to help you feel better in the moment, because you feel so awful inside and you don't see a way out, and you've run out of options at this point, because a lot of people have tried everything and they haven't found the solution, and they don't have the right support network around them maybe, and they're just kind of desperate and want to essentially disappear, whether that is like through this substance abuse or physically sometimes, unfortunately. The key in recovering fully and healing from this lies in digging down to what are not only what the root cause is, which is what a lot of people talk about, but the second thing that I don't hear a lot of people talk about is the unconscious payoff to what you are doing. Because although we hate what we're doing and we don't like being in that cycle, we still return to it for many reasons, one of them being a sense of safety. Your nervous system is not in a good place, so it will always return back to the thing that it will give it kind of an instantaneous sense of relief from. And that unconscious payoff, what is it? What is actually the hidden benefit that, although it's horrible to be in and you don't like the repercussions, why do we keep going back to it? What is that sense of relief that it is actually giving us in the short term? And that is the thing. That is why I hate it when people say things like, oh, binge eaters just don't have enough willpower, or they need more discipline or rules, when it's ironic because those are the very things that actually set a lot of people who have disordered eating tendencies or binge eating, emotional eating, that's what sets them off in the first place, because they don't feel right in the world and they feel they need to change themselves and they need to do everything they possibly can to be right and be accepted and be loved. So they try these things and then it catapults them into astronomical spheres of things like disordered eating. So what is the underlying feeling? What is it? And it doesn't necessarily need to have come from your childhood. Some people can develop this in their adulthood, having come from incredible childhood backgrounds. You know, they've got great family, great support network, and they had a relatively easy life living, running up to when they develop this. It could be something that has actually happened quite recently, and I think that's why the work that I do is so important, because we don't necessarily need to regress you back. You don't necessarily need to relive past experience, or we don't need to take you back to scenes, which is how I was traditionally trained in hypnotherapy. It's actually just a very normal conversation. It's like having a deep meaningful conversation where we can really just find out what is the knot, what is the thing, what's the loop that you're stuck in that you can't get out of, and why do you feel that you've run out of options. And once we find that out, it's so much easier. Once you untie that knot, you untie these knots, and then you untie these knots, and all the levels going up until you literally can free yourself from the problem and move on with your life without having to constantly rip the band-aid off. Band-aid, that's quite American. Rip the plaster off and keep having to go back to therapy for months and months, if not years on end, because it doesn't need to be that long.